Hi y'all, it's me. I'm back with a tutorial that was much requested after I posted my cameras. I sorry for the delay, I just been really busy. But before I get into the tutorial, I just want to thank each and every one of you who kindly left really nice comments. There were so many, there's no way I could possibly respond to everyone. I apologize, but I do read them and I do appreciate all the kindness that you've left me on this project. It was so much fun to create and I'm glad everyone enjoyed it and I hope you were inspired. And once I show you how easy this is, you're going to say, oh, duh. Anyway, and I do hope that if you make a camera, you please link it to me. I'd love to see what your creations look like. I'm sure they're going to be just as fabulous as this one came out on my pink one. So with that said, I decided I wasn't going to go through the entire process of how this camera was made because some of it's just plain obvious. But I will try to walk you through some of the key factors of it. I'm going to start off first by this little eye viewfinder piece here. And this piece was, I believe, yes, this one. I'm going to put the little note here for you so you can see it. It's cut a piece of chipboard, really thin chipboard, and I simply cut it at 2 1/4 by 3/4 of an inch. These are all measurements in inches. And I scored it at 1/4, 3/4, 1 1/2, and 2 inches. And when you fold it, that's how your lens will look, your viewfinder. Not the lens, sorry, the viewfinder. You basically cover it with whatever trim you're planning on using, and then you glue it into place, just like that. Very simple. Of course, before you do that, you want to be sure you've either painted or papered your box the way you want it to look. I chose to gesso and paint mine because I knew I would be using lace and I didn't want it conflicting with the pattern in the background. However, I'm sure it would be pretty cute if you did that, and I probably will do it in the future. Try it anyway. So that's basically how you get your little viewfinder. Make sure again to paint or paper first and apply your bling or whatever it is. If you just want to paint this, you can do that too. You can paper it, whatever you want to do. It's up to you. And basically you're just going to glue down these two little flaps on the side, and that's what's going to create that that viewfinder right there. So that's that. The next thing I will discuss with you is the push button, the clicker. I'm going to turn it this way because I have that on my right-hand side, So this is what the Balsa boxes look like that I got from Michael's. By the way, I'm sorry for my thumb. I think I got bit by a spider, and well, that's what the doctor said, so I'm trying to heal it. Anyway, enough about that. But anyhow, this is the Balsa box. It looks kind of like a backpack. And what I did was I removed the elastic and I went ahead and untied the knots. If you can see underneath here when I pull it out, there's knots that hold it in place. You just have to untie them or cut it out or however you want to do it. You won't need that, so you can just throw it away. Then you're left with this little knob, and it has a tiny little screw in it, so I just unscrewed it. You're not going to need the screw or the washer because, as you can see, the thickness of this is not match the thickness of this, so that they wouldn't do you any good. What I did was, and again, remember now you've painted and papered or whatever you're doing. I even did the inside just to make sure it was, you know, done. That's what I did. I got the knob and a toothpick, and I inserted the toothpick into the hole. When I did that, I put a little glue on the toothpick and pushed it in like that. I used that to not only hold it while I painted it, because that was a good way to get the whole thing painted without having to touch it. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I feel that if I just glued it on here without this extra stability of the toothpick, it would just get knocked off eventually because people want to touch it. I mean, that's what happens when you have something that's familiar, they want to press it. So anyhow, then what you do is after it's painted and dried, and you simply insert it into, I drilled a hole here, by the way. I have a Fisker's hand drill and the smallest bit that it comes with. I just drilled a hole into here, but you probably, if you don't have that, could poke it with a pokey tool or a nail and a hammer, something like that, just to make a hole in there. You're then going to insert this into the hole, and I put a little glue at the base because when I put this in, I wanted the glue also to hold it into place. I let this sit there for the entire time I was working on it. I didn't need to have the stick cut off at that point. When it is dry, however, all you have to do is bend your stick over and break off the remaining part. You can file that little tiny piece down in there. You can file it with a nail file. That's what I did to get rid of that little piece there. So that's how I did the clicker part. I'm going to jump ahead before I get into the lens. I just want to show you how I made the film strip part. And this strip was cut at 12 inches by 2 inches. And you want to make sure that you used cardstock for this. It has to be flexible to bend. You don't want it to be hard like chipboard. So here's the 2-inch by 12-inch strip. The window part that I refer to is this, and it's 1 1/4 by 1 3/4. I simply laid it down on this strip and traced around it with a pencil. I repeated that throughout the entire length. Even if it falls off the edge like that, it doesn't matter because you're going to roll the ends in anyway. And I'll show you that in just 1 second. After you get all of those traced out, you then go ahead and cut out those rectangles. That's where you can insert your own photos. And then for the holes, I have 2 hole punches. One's a regular and one's 1/8 of an inch, I believe. And basically all I did was I took the hole punch. Sorry, let me go this way. I punched half a circle out there, right there with the bigger punch. And then with my 1/8 inch punch, I just went back in and I believe I did 6 little spaced out holes there like that. And that's how I created my film strip. Then you want to make a mat for this like I did, and let me show you that really quickly. I used a black mat in the background after my pictures were added in. You don't want it to be too big because remember it has to fit into this space here. You don't want it to be wider than what you have there to work with. So once you get the whole thing in place and ready to go, you're simply going to, and it's matted, you're going to just roll the ends like, well, let's use this side. You're going to roll the ends in like this, just like that. It's not working because I don't have it matted. But you're going to take something like, you can either use a binder clip or you can use a clothespin. You just want something that's going to hold, well, it'll be round when you do it. It holds it into place. And you want to do that on both ends, and you want to let it sit there for at least, I don't know, an hour or 2. You want to make sure that it's got a good tight, make sure that's dry. And so that's how you come about getting the film strip. Really easy. Now for the lens, the part that everybody's baffled on. When you see how easy it is, you're going to laugh. Okay. By the way, if you don't have one of these scoreboards, I suggest you get one. If you really use it a lot. I use my scoreboard a lot, and the big one is fine, but I found that this little one, I'm using it far more than the big one. It's just tiny, it's thin, it sits right on my desk, it takes up such little space, and usually it's big enough for what I'm trying to score. And I love the tool. They made it actually where it just sits on here, and it's actually, they made this part narrower so it fits into the grooves, unlike the first one. And then it has your grids for your envelopes on the back. Anyway, enough for that. You can get at Michael's, though, with a coupon if you have it. Okay, here we go. The lens. The good old lens. It seems to have baffled everybody. You're going to cut this thin chipboard at 8.5 by 1.5, and you're going to score it at 1 inch. I'm going to set that in there. I'm going to go ahead and score at 1 inch. just like that. The next thing you're going to do, I'm going to move this out of the way since I don't need it any longer, is you're going to take and get your scissors and you're going to start cutting teeth. And when you do, you want to make sure not to cut into the score line. You want to cut on the the half-inch side right here, because remember this is 1.5. So you're going to score at, cut at the half-inch side. You just start cutting teeth, and this is what I mean. Just going to go back and forth and back and forth, and you just keep pulling out the teeth, just like that. So I went ahead and I did that earlier so that I didn't have to waste time doing that, and you end up with this like this. What you need to do now is, after you get all your teeth in, you want to take this piece of chipboard and you want to run it along the edge of your desk, just like I'm doing here. See that? And the thing that does, it breaks down the fibers and it gets the lens to start to curl, because you need it to make a circle, and you don't want to fight the pressure of the chipboard. You're basically going to make a circle with this. You're going to overlap a half an inch overlap when you glue them together. I'm just using glue gun. If I can get it to come out. This thing's temperamental. I'm using a glue gun, and I'm just going to overlap 1/2 of an inch right here, just like that. You want to hold that in place for a minute. Sorry about my thumb. I think I got bit by a spider. At least that's what the doctor said. So I'm trying to get it better. But anyway, here we go. So there you go. There's your lens. The only thing, again, I would do before getting to this point, and I should have said it before, is you want to make sure you've either painted or papered or whatever you want to do to it before then, so you're not trying to do it afterward. It's easier if you get everything papered and painted first, so that you don't have to do it. And then you want to bend in the teeth on that half-inch score line that we did, just like that. So that's how you get that part. And what you want to do is you're going to want to adhere this once your box is painted and papered. I'm sorry I keep reiterating, but I don't want you to forget to do that first. I use the part with the seam down here towards the bottom so that you don't see it bulgy up there. And you're going to simply make sure to glue that down right where you need it on your camera. And that's where you get that part of your lens. The next thing you're going to need is another piece, and this is the facing of the lens. And what I did was, I didn't measure it. I did for you, but for me, I just used a glass and I traced my glass. If you have a circle cutter, all the better, I suppose. But this circle measures, oh, I didn't write it out, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, and then this inner circle measures 1 1/4. This circumference is 1 1/4. So what you do for the inner one, I had a lid that was that size, so I just set it there and traced it. Then you want to cut it out, and this is what you end up with once it's cut out. At this point, again, you want to be sure this is papered or painted, whatever you want to do. You can decide to add acetate here if you'd like. I didn't do it on this one because I didn't want the reflection or glare when I was filming, because this was my design team project, so I knew I had to film it. I didn't want the glare bouncing off of it. So I didn't add acetate to this one, nor did I add it to my pink one, because the pink one was a heart that I had placed here, and the heart was dimensional, and I knew that I wanted it to stand out more, and had I put the acetate, it would have kept it pushed in further than I wanted it to be. So I decided not to use it. I may do it in the future, who knows. I just haven't at this point. The other thing, what I wanted to tell you is whatever it is that you're including in the center, in this case that's my grandson's picture, I just layered these foam, hold on, I got stuff in here. I layered these foam squares one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other, till it was the height that I needed. And then I glued on whatever it was, whether it was this picture or that heart. That's how I got the dimension there with the item that's in the lens. You could actually not even do that and put a flower in there, and you could do whatever. You come up with your own ideas. But anyhow, back to this. Once you decide if you're going to use acetate or not, you paint it or not, you put in, you need another piece that's going to sit on the inside because you don't want to see all the teeth marks in there. So I cut another circle at 2 1/4, and 2 1/4 fits perfectly into that. And you just want to, again, paper that or paint it, whatever. So that goes next. Then you're going to put your squares with your item or your picture or not, whatever. And then you're going to use this with your acetate or not or whatever. And that gets glued right onto the top there. And once you put all your embellishments, your trims and your laces, it'll hide any imperfections that you might have in any of your work, whether it be the cutting of the circle or the outer edge here. It will not show at all, as you can tell here. It's all covered. And so there you go. That's how easy it was. There was no science to this. It was so simple. So I hope you give it a try. And please, please, please let me see it if you do. I'm curious to see what everybody comes up with. So thank you so much again for all the comments, and thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know. Talk to y'all soon. Bye.